Welcome back, folks. Today we're going to learn how to make felt Victorian style house ornaments, and these are the supplies you will need. I first started by going onto Pinterest and searching up cute houses that I liked and would want to make into ornaments. I think I started by looking up the Lenox house villages, but I ultimately ended up choosing quite a few Victorian house styles. I'm not sure what this other style is, but I brought it into Procreate and traced over it. And then I printed them out, and this is what I had, and then I just cut them out. So once you have your houses drawn out, and you actually don't really need as much detail as I put in, as long as you have your reference image. So these are all the houses that I made. I ended up making 10. You don't have to make that many. It does take a while, but it's a fun activity. Now to trace your design, you're going to want your house cut out, the color felt that you are going to make your house in. You're going to want a marker or pen. Right now I have a Sharpie. You can use like an erasable one or whatnot, but this is what I had. And a thicker needle. This one is used for blocking. And so I just laid down my design, and I started by tracing the base shape of the house first. And when your base shape is traced out, where you're going to get your needle and you're going to make little pokes through your paper. I know my hand is in the way. I'm getting the hang of filming, but you're going to trace basically on the outline, and you're going to poke holes. I suggest doing this like a little piece at a time. Like here, I'm starting off with the top of the window. So I'm going to poke my marker through the holes and see it makes holes. And I just kind of gently fold over and trace with my marker as light as you can. You don't want it to bleed. And then before moving on, I make sure it's lined up, and then I repeat the process. So you're going to want to do this for not the details of the house, but kind of just like outline the main portions. I suggest not tracing every detail because it'll shine through more under your embroidery. And this way you can use your little printout as a reference, and you can use that as a guide to do your design instead of tracing everything out. As you can see here, I left out this part. I did not draw it. I left a sort of a dotted line to sort of give me a guide. And these little pillar things, whatever they're called, I didn't add them either. I'm just going to look at my reference picture as I'm embroidering and add in these details later. And here I'm using my big scissors, as you can see, and I'm just cutting out the rough shape. And then I'm going to switch to smaller scissors to kind of get into these detail areas a little bit later. So just cut out your design out of your felt, and then we'll get to the windows. So here I have my smaller scissors, and I'm just going to kind of fold it and cut a little like slit so that I can get my scissors in there. This is why you want smaller scissors for this to be a little more precise. And then I just go ahead and cut out the windows. windows are all cut out. And next I'm going to use this yellow. I also used a blue, but I like the effect of the yellow. So I laid my house over top the color that I want to shine through the windows. And you cut a rough shape out. I suggest making it a little smaller than your house so you have something to sew onto on the back. That way you're not sewing onto the front of it. So you'll need your needle, your sewing needle and sewing thread. And we're going to hold it in place as we're going to do a whip stitch. So we're going to whip stitch this all around to the back. And I suggest this way. I did try for my first house using a hot glue gun to kind of glue in the little window pieces. But the thing with that is if you've ever tried to push a needle through hot glue that has dried, you know, it's a little bit difficult. So it's a little more difficult on the fingers, although it's easier to attach it. It's not as clean of a look. The strings of the hot glue kind of get everywhere and it's not very easy to embroider later. So I suggest doing this method. So you're gonna whip stitch through. I'll show you a little bit right now. I'm gonna do a close-up. You don't want to go all the way through. So you go through all the yellow, but then you just pick up, as felt is kind of like layered, pick up the back layer so you cannot see the needle through. Right here is a good example. See how I'm going through the middle of it, but not through the whole thing. And then you just pull up your whip stitch. And we're going to do this until the entire yellow or whatever color you want the window is attached. And we're going to hide our thread, cut off, and our house has lights. Next, we're going to embroider our details. So I'm going to have my house, my printout that I traced for reference on the side. And I'm just using 2 colors. I found that was easier. You can use as many colors as you want. The red one is one I got at Joann's maybe 10 years ago. And then the blue one came in a pack from Amazon, like also about 10 years ago. Like I said, I'm a woman of many hobbies. So I already had all this stuff on hand. And so I'm just going to start tracing my details. My red is going to be my main color. And for the most part, I use what I believe is called a back stitch for embroidery. I am nowhere an expert on embroidery. I haven't actually embroidered in a long time, but I wanted to give felt ornamenting a try. So I'm just gonna go with the flow intuitively of what to embroider. So don't look at this video as an embroidery tutorial. That's not what this is. You don't really need to know too much, just like your basic stitching to pull this off. You can even just stitch like normal or look up quick little easy stitches. But for the most part, this is a back stitch, I believe. that all the red details are done, I'm satisfied with that. I'm going to move on to my light blue color. So I'm just going to give this house a few different accents in the blue. I think it's a nice kind of contrast, and I really like the red against the pink, and I think the blue is a nice complement. So I'm just going to do like the door, the steps, the roof, a few other little details around the door in this blue. And I'm not going to go too crazy with it because this is really like I got really sick, so this pushed me out. I haven't even decorated for Christmas and it's already December 22nd. So I don't know if we're going to get to it this year, but I think this is a really fun activity to actually do on Christmas. If you guys are like a crafty family, just bring out the felts and everybody can do one ornament that they can take home or put on the tree. I think that would be a really cool idea, which I might implement next year. So just go ahead and finish your details with your colors and I'll be back. Okay, here I wanted to show you how I did the roof because I really liked how this roof design went. So you're going to come up from the back to the front as if you're going to make a normal stitch. And then you're going to go kind of like almost like a stitch length away and pull down, but stop and leave a loop and come through the back in the center of those two stitches, but down. So it makes like a U, and you're going to push through and you're going to catch over that loop and then pull it down so it makes a U and go under either in the same stitch or very close to it. And then you have this U shape that makes a cool kind of roof look. And then you just repeat this, make a stitch, like if you're gonna do it like normal. Leave a loop, come up through the bottom but down to where it's like a U. Pull up, pull it down as you insert your needle back in that same stitch and tack it down. And then your next row is going to kind of be off center like a brick pattern. That way it's not all like lining up. You could do that look too, but I liked the offset. So you'll just do this or whatever method you want. I just like the way this came out. I don't know what it's called, if it's called anything, but I thought it made a cool design. And lastly, for our embroidery, I'm going to make a wreath. On other houses, I made a wreath. I made like a sort of red and white garland, or I made a bow out of the beads that I have. So what I discovered on my last final 10th one was it is easier if you make the circle first if you're going to make a wreath. You can trace it out if you want to as well. Last one, I just kind of freehanded a circle shape first with my green, and then I did the offshoots to make the branches. But you're just going to keep going, kind of stagger them left, right in a circle, kind of like, you know, what a wreath looks like. Their branches are not all in a straight line. They go off to one side and then the other side. Just stagger it and make it as thick as you'd like, and then you'd be all done with your wreath. And this is my final wreath. Next, we're going to add beads to our wreath. I have these red and white ones that I got from my grandma, and we have this elastic clear thread. I don't really know what it's called. It was also my grandma's. She gave it to me with a bunch of other jewelry making stuff. So you thread your thread, and then you tie it off and you pull it through, and then you grab a bead onto your needle, slip it down, and then you come down back into the same stitch or very close to where you came up, pull down, and that should secure your bead in place. And then you can continue this and put however many beads you want. I think I put 4 and I altered red and white. So you can do colored ones, you can do all red, all white. It's just up to preference and what supplies you have. And lastly, we're going to assemble it. So pick your felt color that you want to the back. You can make them all different or all the same. I chose to do all the same, which was black. So you lay it on top and then you cut out a rough shape, and I switched to my smaller scissors to trace the shape. You can outline it, but this is black, so this was easier for me instead of trying to trace and see. You can make it as close to the size. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit bigger, but just don't go smaller. You can go a little bit bigger or the same. So now we're gonna have ribbon. I got this ribbon about as well maybe 10 years ago off Amazon. It's just a velvet red ribbon that I had in my stash that I thought would go, and it's kind of Christmassy. So you cut to the length that you want, and we're gonna start sewing. So we're going to close this up with a blanket stitch. We're going to start off on one side of the house. So you start from back to the front, but in the middle of your felt, so you can hide your knot. And then you come up from the back to the front. I had a really long string, so it did get tangled. I just didn't want to keep connecting new pieces, so I made sure I had enough, but the headache is it's gonna tangle. So then before you close it off, you make that loop, you push your thread through and close it. So for your blanket stitch, you go a stitch length away and then you go from front to back. And I'm not an expert in blanket stitch, so if this isn't a good tutorial, which I know it's not, there are plenty on YouTube. And then you go through that loop before you close it and you pull it tight. And then we're just going to continue doing this. Try to do an even lengths away from each stitch. And then I will meet you at the center top, and that's where we're going to attach our ribbon or thread, whatever you decided to use. Now at our center top, we have our ribbon right sides out, and we're going to put it in between. We're going to sandwich it in between our front and back felt, just like this. And then I just secure it by going back and forth from front to back to secure it in place. And then once it's done, we just continue our blanket stitch. Sorry for the horrible angle. It's really difficult to craft and film if you've ever tried to do it. I'm not quite used to it yet, but I tried my best to get it in frame. And after this, we're going to continue the blanket stitch, but leave the bottom open and I will meet you there. And now that we're at our bottom, we're going to use our stuffing. I have old yarn scraps. Whatever you have on hand will work, and we're going to just shove it in there. Use something sharp or pointy like a pencil, I use scissors to kind of even it out. My tip is to not overstuff it because it kind of warps the house. And then once it's stuffed, just continue your blanket stitch to close. And here are all the little houses. You can experiment by using felt like I did on the windows. You can embroider a lot more details. It's really up to you. Just have fun with it. Thanks for watching. Happy holidays and a happy new year. Bye, guys.